I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. We'll visit a vibrant community in our diocese you may not be aware of.
Everybody brings their own flavor into let's say a cake. You know, everyone brings a little spice to make a cake.
The bishops get down to business in Baltimore. We'll talk to someone who's there, our very own Bishop DiMarzio. And economic recovery? The Pope says it's all about education.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us this Tuesday night. Well, the history of Brooklyn Diocese in the diocese is one of diversity, and the people of Brooklyn and Queens obviously like to celebrate that diversity.
That's right. As we told you last week, November is Black Catholic History Month. Georgianne Campbell, the director of the African American Apostolate for the diocese, paid us a visit.
She sure did. I sat down with her right over there. And over the weekend, we paid a visit to her and to members of the Black community in the diocese. They held a special celebration at St. Benedict the Moor Parish in Jamaica, Queens.
We're here to celebrate the Black Catholic History Month, an endeavor that the Vicariate wants to put into place, beginning of recognizing the Black Catholics in the diocese and all over the world. We come through all walks of life, we come through all over the world, and from different faiths and different ethnic backgrounds. And so a Black Catholic is one who represents the world. Just our very presence of giving glory and praise to God and resounding of the drums, and the resonates the heartbeat of the cultures of the different people in the parishes, not only in Africa, but also we have Indian descent. We also have North American descents, South American descendants, Caribbean descendants. Everybody brings their own flavor into let's say a cake. You know, everyone brings a little spice to make a cake.
It has a special identity as Black church. Black in the sense that it is the first church in Queens built by the Black themselves, and it has been part of the Black history in this community. If you read right down from the history of North Africa, you see that Blacks have been part of the Christian community and the Catholic community. And so I would say that Christianity is not the white man religion. It is a universal religion which the Black people have been part right from the beginning, from South Africa, and have been part, continuing to the diaspora, and now we are part of the church in Brooklyn Diocese and Church of the World.
It began in 1990 by the National Black Catholic Clergy Caucus when they had their meeting in Washington, and they thought it was significant that it should be celebrated during November. It's the month of All Souls and the month of All Saints, the month of St. Martin de Porres, and the month of St. Augustine. I heard someone said to me the other day at the channel that they had never seen a Black Catholic. And I want everyone now to know that there are Black Catholics right here in Brooklyn and Queens, and we are proud of who we are.
Well, be sure to head over to our website, currentsny.net, to see our interview on Black Catholic History Month.
I love the music in there, you know, like at the beginning when they're processing down the aisle, and it's the nice upbeat music. You know, we were talking about it. It's something that's two things that you might not think are related, but the gospel music and kind of the classic Catholic procession.
It's very cool to see.
And they have a really long history. Georgianne, when she was in here and I was interviewing her last week, said that, you know, this isn't anything new. We've been Christian, and you know, one of the priests echo that in the piece as well. And she said somebody at the station or something said that they didn't know any black Catholics, and she was referring to me, but that's not what I said. I said that I only really knew one very well, and her daughter. And so I'm really glad to see that there is that kind of diversity in this kind of a month and this kind of a commitment to sort of celebrating that history and letting people know that they can, you know, celebrate there at other dioceses, I mean at other churches within the diocese anywhere.
That's right, and the diversity is definitely right here in Brooklyn.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, stay tuned. There's much more Currents coming up straight ahead.
Coming up, a busy second day as the U.S. bishops meet. We'll get the latest from Bishop DiMarzio.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Later in the show, is it the end of the world as we know it? When Missouri Man thinks so.
But first, a busy day, too, at U.S. Bishops, as U.S. Bishops meet in Baltimore for their fall assembly. The website Life News reports Cardinal Daniel DiNardo of Galveston, Houston, will become the new head of their pro-life office. He would succeed Cardinal Justin Regali of Philadelphia. The bishops had a strong voice in the ongoing health care debate, helping gain passage of an amendment restricting federal funding of abortion.
And that is one of the many important issues the bishops are tackling. And to find out more, I spoke earlier on in the day with our very own Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio. Well, Bishop DiMarzio, thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Currents from Baltimore over the phone. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And no problem at all, sir. So how are things going there so far at the Bishops' Conference?
Well, it's been a good meeting so far. We had the initial presentation of the documentation they want us to vote on. And there's some of the highlights of it. The liturgy is a lot of what we're talking about these days, of changing the wording according to the directives of the Holy See, and that's going all right. And we just finished debating this morning a document on defending the family, basically. And that is an interesting document. It's theological, but at the same time very practical, trying to give a Catholic perspective on marriage and all the implications involved.
Right. Well, these are all things, of course, that are to be voted on. And is all that happening today?
Well, today and tomorrow.
Okay. All right. So just a busy couple of days here. With regards to the translation of the Mass, what's the significance of that for folks in the pews? What differences are they likely to hear, and when might it happen?
Well, there will be some changes, and probably not for at least 18 months that we'll see any direct changes. And it's minor changing in wording to reflect a better translation of the original Latin. When the original translations were made almost 40 years ago, was a very quick turnaround, and some of the translations could be improved, and that's what they're working on. And they're improving the whole translation of the Missal and the readings also. So it's a good process. Any change is not easy to accept, I'm sure. When we get used to one thing, priests are going to have to note some word changes in the celebration of the Eucharist, and so will the people.
Okay. Well, this letter, the pastoral letter regarding the family that you were mentioning, explain to us the significance of that and what prompted that. Well,
it's been in the works for almost 2 years, and I think some of the assaults on family life are, maybe prompted a better statement. There was a few, was a statement in the past of family life. Certainly the issue of same-sex marriage was one thing, but also the increased divorce rate and misunderstanding of marriage, where cohabitation has become such a norm. So it was time to talk about marriage and marriage as a sacrament. So I think those were the factors that prompted the statement.
Okay. All right. Now, you've been to several of these meetings in the past, I imagine. How does this one differ or compare to those other meetings that you've been to?
Well, this meeting is fairly low-key. Things are moving, but it isn't controversial, or there isn't any great debate. So it's good to have that once in a while.
Okay. So the mood there is pretty good, you'd say?
Yes, very good.
Okay. What about any other issues? Is there any ongoing discussion about maybe healthcare reform?
There was a statement put out by the bishops that we all agreed on healthcare reform, basically restating the principles that were guiding us in our policy advocacy in this regard. So that was done also yesterday.
Okay, so just restating the statement
Right.
that had already been made by the bishops regarding that in the past. Well, tell me finally, just on a little bit of a lighter note, how's the food going down there?
Well,
did
not
you
bad, we'll say it that way. I just went out for lunch because I was tired of the same old thing. But no, it's not bad.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was wondering maybe if because I know that Archbishop Dolan got some tasty cakes. I was wondering if those were. I don't know. A doctor's orders might not be allowed in your diet. But.
I have to curtail certain things, but I didn't go after any tasty cakes.
Right. Okay. Well, good. Very good. Well, Bishop DiMarzio, thank you so much for joining us. So we really appreciate it. We look forward to hearing more from these meetings as well. We appreciate your time.
Okay. Very fine. Take care. Bye.
Thanks. You too. Bishop DiMarzio, Mr. No Tasty Cake at the Bishop's Fall Assembly. It continues through tomorrow, and be sure to watch Currents for all the latest from the meetings.
And stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. When we return, we have the day's headlines, including an about-face in the healthcare debate.
And Catholic education gets a pat on the back and some words of encouragement from Pope Benedict.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Just ahead, we'll meet a Missouri man preparing for an event of epic proportions.
But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. More back and forth on abortion funding in healthcare reform. One Democratic pro-life senator is signaling the Senate version of the bill will not contain the same language restricting federal dollars for abortions as the House version. Nebraska Senator Ben Nelson says he would be satisfied with the Senate Finance Committee version of the bill. That version says federal money used to subsidize private plans can be separated from private funds to be used to pay for abortions. But Congressman Bart Stupak says if his provisions prohibiting federal money from being used to pay for abortions in those private plans are not included in the Senate version, the bill will stall. The National Pastoral Life Center in Manhattan is closing its doors at the end of the month. The Catholic Pastoral Development Organization was founded 25 years ago to help study and advance the development of parish ministry in the U.S. The organization's website says one reason for the closing is that many of the initiatives the group advocated have become very much a part of the way Catholics in the U.S. practice their faith and serve the church. The NPLC says the closing was decided by a unanimous decision of its board of directors.
Pope John Paul could soon be on the official path to sainthood. Catholic News Service reports that the Congregation for Saints' Causes voted unanimously to have John Paul declared venerable. The Vatican did not confirm or deny that the vote took place, as the process is supposed to remain secret until the Pope makes an official declaration. Back in the U.S., the head of the Bishops' Conference, Cardinal Francis George, has set up 3 committees to determine what are considered legitimate Catholic entities. The committees are a response to institutions which claim to be Catholic, yet advocate positions that go against the Church's teachings. Meanwhile, Pope Benedict is recognizing the work of a prestigious Catholic university. We get more now from Rome Reports.
The Pope received the rector, professors, and students of the Lumsa University in Rome as they celebrated the 70th anniversary of their foundation. During the meeting, Benedict encouraged them to invest in human capital by increasing awareness and personal preparation to find a way out of the economic crisis.
La profonda crisi economica diffusa in tutto il mondo, con le cause che ne sono all'origine, hanno evidenziato l'esigenza di un investimento più deciso e coraggioso nel campo del sapere e dell'educazione, quale via per rispondere alle numerose sfide aperte e per preparare le giovani generazioni a costruire un futuro migliore.
The Pope also touched on the Catholic identity that Lumsa was founded on. and highlighted the great service that the university has lent to the church and to society. Benedict also said that the university needs true teachers and encouraged them to communicate not only knowledge to their students, but also values and deep motivation.
You hear a lot about the great architecture in Rome. This has nothing to do with the story, by the way. You hear a lot about the great architecture in Rome, and that's a really cool building. Like, it's a lot more modern, but it's very cool. I'd like to go see it, whatever building it is, one of these days.
Lots of marble.
Stay tuned. There's much more Currents coming up straight ahead.
Finally tonight, the apocalyptic movie 2012 brought in $65 million at the box office this past weekend. And if you haven't seen it, I haven't, but a lot of my friends actually went and paid some of that $65 million over the weekend. They thought it was great. The movie is about a Mayan prophecy being fulfilled, bringing about the end of civilization as we know it.
Well, of course, no one really knows when the world is going to end. I mean, the Bible actually says we know not the day or the hour, But one Missouri man claims to have the answer, and he's getting ready for it. Karen Winter paid him a visit recently.
Imagine for a second.
There's more ammo back there, more weapons.
Living like this.
I foresee the potential for a disaster that's catastrophic.
Arming your home with everything under the sun. From semi-automatic rifles, hunting knives, and gas masks, even anti-radiation pills. What Steve Pace couldn't store at his rural Missouri home, he's stockpiled in this storage shed 4 blocks away.
If I'm living out of this bag, we have gone to hell in a handbasket.
But don't call this retired Army Sergeant crazy. Pace is just one of many subscribers to an ancient Mayan belief the world could destruct in 2012.
You've also described 2012 as the year of collapse.
It's the only reason I choose 2012 as the year of a collapse because so many things point to it. We're getting so close and it's rapidly speeding up.
So you're actually bracing for something disastrous.
Right. I'm talking the collapse of civilization.
Pace says it's not just the stuff of movies, as depicted in Hollywood's latest apocalyptic doomsday film, 2012. He says he's been following this highly prophesized date for decades and believes in 3 years, when civilization collapses, there may be everything from nuclear warfare to famine.
What do you say to those non-believers?
I would say, do you have insurance on your house? Why? It's pretty cheap insurance if I need it.
Psychology professor Michael Barkin, who's written books on the topic, explains why so many believe in this theory that so many others find bizarre.
There has always been a subculture of individuals who fear some kind of dramatic societal collapse.
The panic heightened by the movie's release.
It contributes to the belief that December 21st, 2012 has some kind of significance.
And if this ardent believer is wrong, if all this preparation is a waste, well, Steve Pace says, hey, it's not the end of the world.
Well, it seems to me about 10 years ago, we were going through the same exact thing with people stockpiling for Y2K.
I remember I was in front of a nuclear reactor in Oswego, New York on New Year's Eve, Y2K, doing a live shot. It was freezing. I had a bag of Doritos in the news van as my, celebration. And, it's basically like, is this thing going to blow up or not? And of course, thankfully it didn't, but, that's what we do in local news sometimes. Just in case it did,
you'd be one of the first to know.
I would have been there to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I was actually on vacation for Y2K, and I remember where I was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee on vacation. They'd drop a ball from the big Space Needle there, kind of like the one in Seattle. They have one in Gatlinburg, Tennessee as well. So they drop a ball from the Space Needle, and we were all waiting for all the lights to go out as the Space Needle, the ball dropped. But and none of it happened. And so could the world end in 2012? Yeah, I guess maybe, but we don't know that. And the scientists keep coming out and saying, the world is not, there's no planet that's headed for the Earth right now. So it's just overreaction.
It won't be a movie, though, that I'm going to see, because I don't like that kind of stuff.
The apocalyptic kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm more Pollyanna, but that's more my style.
I'd rather go see a comedy or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for this comical edition of Currents. Coming up tomorrow, everyone has a place in the local faith communities. What should the church do to help people with disabilities? We'll talk about that.
And until then, remember, you can always catch us online at currentsny.net.
And you can also email us, send us your ideas, story ideas. We always welcome those at dropusaline@currentsny.net. Well, for all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for watching this evening. Have a great night.